magazine. Salt and pepper and heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let my tape rock till my tape pop. Smoking weed and bamboo.
All right, everybody. Fantasy scoring is back on the menu, boys. We got some good ones this week. Unfortunately, we also got some quarterback injuries. But let's talk about the good stuff real quick first. We had Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Devon Achane, Javonte Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, Rome Odunze, Wan'Dale Robinson, Puka Nacua, and if you're in FFPC land, Tucker Kraft, all top 25 points. That's a huge change from last week. But on the downside, of course, we have Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, and we already knew about Brock Purdy, all questionable or worse this week. And that news on Burrow is not good. So, this week we got it all in the Empire. We're going to celebrate the rising stars. We're going to get group therapy going for the Burrow managers. Let's get to it. And we do have a Burrow manager here, don't we, Chris?
Not anymore, we don't. That was the big hit, this week. Not good. Worst news that we could have hoped for. He's probably going to be out the rest of the season. I know a lot of people say, mid-December, but by that time it's like week 15 or 16, and I don't see Dan any reason to hold him. I know that was going to be one of our discussions. Absolutely not. I'm dropping him everywhere this week, and it's time to go to a plan B. When you're the Joe Burrow owner and you invest in an elite quarterback in fantasy this year, and that's a top 4-round pick, basically in the top 50 overall, you're hoping that's one of your strengths, when you go after one of the elite 5 quarterbacks here. All of a sudden your strength becomes your weakness now, so people are saying, all right, well, yeah, you lost your starting quarterback, but you could still, you're not dead yet. You could put it together. That may be true, but when you draft one of those top elite 5 guys in the top 4 rounds, what you're doing is you're basically you're sacrificing an extra really good wide receiver or an extra really good running back, and most likely an elite tight end. So now you're probably a little weaker somewhere else on your roster when you take the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Hurts, and Burrows of the world. So now your strength, like I said, becomes a weakness, and you have to figure out where we're going from here, okay? For me, I'm going to hit the waiver wire clearly, and I'm going to put a collection of guys. I'm not just going to go get one guy. I'm going to go have to build a quarterback room, probably carry 3 quarterbacks all year long and just play the matchups. Okay, I no longer have the ceiling of the Joe Burrow 35 to 45 point weeks that it comes with drafting an elite quarterback. Okay, now I'm just going to have to go and pick out of my collection of quarterbacks that I have rostered, whoever it is, and hope that I get a 25 and not get these bombings that we see at the quarterback position. 6 points, 8 points, a Justin Fields week. Granted, he got hurt, but that's what comes when you don't have one of these quarterbacks. You run the risk of running into that 7-point week, complete bombing, and that's what you avoid usually when you draft an elite quarterback like a Joe Burrow with the upside of the 40-plus games. So I'm in the business of just trying to patch it together in all my Burrow teams now. Luckily, I have a lot of Trevor Lawrence as his backup and a lot of Daniel Jones as his backup. Those are my backup quarterbacks on all my Burrow teams. And I don't ever, a lot of people go with the thought process of if you're the Allen Lamar, you don't back up your quarterback. Well, here we are in 2025. I don't believe that. I always back up my quarterbacks, and I try and get a decent number 2 for these dark, rainy days, that I'm faced with now. So hopefully Danny Dimes and Trevor Lawrence step up and become, somewhat back-end QB1s or high-end QB2s, and the rest of my roster fills in. So that's the way I'm looking at it, fellas. I don't know how about you guys.
Yeah, for me, I have 4 Burrow shares, 2 in the main event, 2 in prime times. 3 of them are with my partner, Jason Anthony. I guess I was wrong when I said if you take Chase, you had to take Burrow. We had some options to not take Burrow, and I was pretty adamant about taking Burrow there. But still, it is a ripple effect to Chase. I know he had a great game, and to Higgins, and basically the offense in general. To the point Chris made about backing up your quarterbacks, I've always believed in that, regardless if you draft a stud or not. But a thing that I think it became more prevalent this summer, especially if you waited on quarterback, was drafting 3 quarterbacks. You used to hear if you draft 3 quarterbacks, you don't have any. That's nonsense, especially in high stakes. We're talking high stakes where you have 10 bench spots, because you're drafting a backup with upside. You take another shot. And I'll say this, it's more for my FFPC Gorilla Leagues. Look at your waiver wire. I got Dak available in one. I got Trevor Lawrence. I got Goff. I mean, there are guys in there, and there's some Danny Dimes out there as well. So definitely check your waiver wire. It's bleak. It's dark right now with this Burrow news, but you got to keep pushing on. Like Chris said, you're building a room, and you're trying to play the best matchups each week. You're hoping Browning can kind of replicate what he did 2 years ago. I think he had like 5 top 10 finishes when he took over for Burrow. But again, I totally co-sign with Chris. You're not picking up one; you're picking up 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, you're seeing that a lot more in with fantasy drafters nowadays. They're putting a quarterback room together. If you draft one of those elite 5 guys, you're still going to put your J.J. McCarthy's or Daniel Jones or Michael Penix's, those guys at the end of your roster in round 17 through 20. You don't really see anybody going just naked at the quarterback position with those guys. And my plan all along, like I said for a month now on this show, was if I didn't get one of those elite 5, I was going to have probably 3 quarterbacks rostered. And you see that across our leagues. I mean, that's why the waiver wire is so barren now. When you go and look at it, there are still names. And these other injuries have opened up some other opportunities here, whether it's the Niners with Mac Jones, you got Sam Darnold's always available.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Like you're saying these opportunities. Like I was a big Bryce Young believer.
Bryce Young.
And he was my number 2 or number 3 because I wanted to see how he did.
Yeah.
And I cut him in a lot of leagues. And is he a guy that we could maybe hope, at least in garbage time, can get it done?
I think you're gonna see a lot of Burrow owners tomorrow night go in and add a Bryce Young on the cheap. Maybe they didn't see the game. He played from behind a ton. He put up the numbers at the end of the day. It was 330 and 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He's not a 0 on the ground. He could take off and run a little bit. He's in an offense with an emerging star in Ted McMillan, and he's got a couple other pieces. That's going to be a popular name tomorrow. None of these guys are going to go for a lot of money, okay? But we're all looking at the same thing. I'm not talking about these other shows that are going to go to the waiver wire and go pick up a Trevor Lawrence. That's garbage. You know the type of level that we're playing here at High Stakes. It's the same names in every league, okay? You're looking at Tua, you're looking at Stafford, a Cam Ward, a Bryce Young, and then all these backups, right? Like I said, the Mac Jones, the Jake Browning, obviously, and then Russell Wilson off of his big game. Okay, another angle you guys could take out there if you want to play the long game and you're looking for some quarterbacks that could potentially have upside. I think if Dart is still available and Dylan Gabriel, these 2 guys, that could be your 3rd guy. Okay, go pick up one of these veterans on waivers to back up your other backup. And then go stash a Dart or a Dylan Gabriel maybe, and then hope that these guys are those rookie quarterbacks that come in, or a Cam Ward, and then, they start to put it together, and they're like a 25-point-a-game type quarterback some weeks. So I think that's what we're all looking at if you're the Burrow owner.
Yeah, and first off, let me congratulate you, Chris. You've made amazing progress in the last 24 hours on getting through the grief and moving on to being a productive
Thanks,
human
Dan.
being.
It was a rough patch, so. Dan. It was dark. It was a dark period for a while. The shades were drawn. The shades were drawn. The lights are off.
The fetal position.
There were tears in the shower. all of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we get it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and just to kind of highlight a couple things, if you're in a league that's got smaller benches, obviously you're not going to carry 3 quarterbacks. Obviously, you're not going to even need to dig as deep as those of us in leagues with 20-man rosters and 12 teams and all of that. So, whatever your league is, it may be different than what we're talking about, but do what's right for your league. I think what's interesting this week is with as many quarterbacks as are out, with Justin Fields, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, it's going to put a lot more pressure on the quarterback free agents. So, you were saying low bids. I think it's probably going to end up boosting the cost of covering. So hopefully you did have a backup to your elite quarterback Burrow. If you didn't, it could be tough sledding here. So
Dan, there's two names there that we talked about that you just said though. I think it's a way to cover up this major hole for the next month, right? And you never know. Every month, a couple other quarterbacks could go down. Their backup could come in. But, Carson Wentz, now in charge of a Minnesota offense probably for the next month here. And Mac Jones probably the same, playing well. He had a nice game, 280 and 3 touchdowns. These are 2 guys that, listen, there's no long-term plan here. But if you're patching it together, these are guys that I'm going to be adding as well, okay? And I'm just going to be playing it week to week. There's nobody to go to the waiver wire and go, okay, this is going to be my long-term solution here to get me through the season. But if I see an answer here for the next 2 to 4 weeks in decent offenses like the Vikings and the Niners, well, maybe that covers me through mid-October, and then I go from there.
Well, hold on one second. But what about Jake Browning? Like I said in his past, he came into the game, they were down 7. The guy threw 3 picks. He passed for 247 yards, threw 2 touchdowns, ran 1 in. He still has these weapons. Sure. It's still a terrible defense. I'm thinking that he is going to go for higher. I think there's going to be people.
Oh, nobody's saying that, Matt. No, nobody's saying. I'm talking, that's the obvious. He's the obvious answer for the Burrow owner.
But I'm saying, are we thinking?
I'm saying there's options. There are other options.
My point is he in the $150 range? Is basically what I'm trying to say. I don't think that's outrageous.
I don't think so either.
Especially if you're invested. That's just
I think the bids are going to be very all over the place. Okay, I think what I've been doing the last day and a half, I'm going through my leagues that I have Burrow. I'm looking at the other teams in my league. I'm seeing how many of these teams need a quarterback. Now, ironically enough, you look around your fantasy leagues, there's maybe like 5 or 6 teams that are pretty settled. That's at least what I'm seeing in all my leagues that are settled at quarterback. They have a nice combination, or they have the Josh Allen. You can eliminate the Allen and Lamar and the Hurts, even though Jalen Hurts sucks. But these aren't guys that are going to be bidding up, these backup quarterbacks. But in every league, there's 5 or 6 teams that you could potentially see be in on the bidding for a Jake Browning or these other guys. So it's not like you go around, you look at these teams and you're like, all right, I can see 1 or 2 guys bidding up. Maybe I have to make my bid a little higher. I see half the teams in the league that might look at their quarterback room and go, all right, I'm going to be in on this bidding for Browning or any of these other guys that, people like.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting quarterbacks this week. And as you said, Chris, I think you can kind of, not worry about the long term so much as just getting through the next 3 weeks. Because as we start getting into bye weeks, you'll have some teams that, have other issues at byes, and maybe they have 3 quarterbacks and they might have to drop one. So quarterbacks will kind of continually enter the waiver wire either as they have a bad game or, as a tricky bye week approaches for one particular owner or whatever. So there are definitely ways to handle it.
Believe it or not, I just punched up the name and I wanted to see where he was available. I'm sure I have it in my notes when I was doing my waivers yesterday. But Danny Dimes is available in a prime time that I am in. It's a team that we have Burrow on. And Danny Dimes is available in our second OC that we did.
Yes.
So there are 2 Danny Dimes teams out there.
I'm shocked that Daniel Jones is available in a prime time. I thought he was 100% owned.
And what's funny, in one of my primes on Saturday night, I think it's a team I have Lamar Jackson on, and I put him in as a $14 bid, and I won it 14-13. So that was just like, I wasn't, I didn't go crazy, but just got lucky.
You know who I see available in a lot of my big leagues, and I'd like your opinions on it. Stafford. Stafford's one of those guys that, he's not owned everywhere, and he's available in a lot of mine. Like I said, I think coming into the year, nobody wanted to touch Stafford, the back injury, everything like that. Through 2 weeks, and he obviously doesn't run at all. So now you got a double whammy of a guy who's banged up, old, injured, and doesn't run. But, he's got 2 elite wide receivers. That offense looks real good. And he's a guy that'll give you 250 and 2 touchdowns. And like I said, if you're looking for a solid guy off waivers that could give you 24 fantasy points a week in NFFC scoring, Stafford's going to be a heavy play for these Burrow owners as well.
That's an excellent point. I think he's probably the top guy. I'd rather him than Penix. I mean, Geno was just awful last night. I mean, C.J. Stroud, if you have him as your backup, I mean, is he even rosterable right now? I don't know, because he doesn't throw for any yards either every week.
Yeah,
I think I'd almost rather Spencer Rattler over C.J. Stroud.
I mean, that's like what you're looking at, too. Like, it's not even just the starters. People that have bad backups are going to look to upgrade as well.
Great point, Matt. Honestly, that's a great point, because that's what I was talking about. When you look at these rosters, half the teams in the league, you could honestly see being like, I don't want – what about the J.J. McCarthy owners? Mm-hmm. I would have dropped J.J. McCarthy regardless, even if he didn't get hurt this week. That's how bad I think he is. I would have been in that business. Now that he's hurt now 4 weeks, Dan, you have a lot of J.J. McCarthy. Are you dropping him this week, or you're going to hold?
It depends on the team. Some of them I'm just going to hold. Some of them I'm going to drop. So, if I've got a Hurts or something like that, I'd probably look for somebody else to drop. But again, I don't think there's going to be a lot of pressure. I don't think like somebody's going to snap him right up if I drop him. So,
I mean, I'm with Dan. Dan, I agree. I'm not just. I think if he's going to be out for a month, he's probably a drop, most likely. But again, Sunday night, he was the most pressured quarterback in the league this week. This is a rookie. He did not play well. I'm not justifying that.
And he did take too long.
I just don't think he has it, guys. I've been on this, beating this drum for a year and a half.
Fair.
I think he's a terrible quarterback. That's just my opinion. That's why I would drop him.
I do think the fact that here's 2 things. Here's 2 pro reasons for keeping JJ. If they get Dursel back, who's their best lineman, which is a huge hole there. Jordan Addison and him had a rapport all camp. He didn't have a camp with JJ. JJ was out with the hamstring all camp. I think they just have too many weapons, and I think he's got the upside that he could run. And the coach, I love the coach.
Yeah.
So
it's a good point, Matt. All that when you include it, especially the corpse of T.J. Hawkinson is running around out there.
That's killing me.
It's over and done. But you're right. JJ was out. Justin Jefferson was out. All of camp pretty much. Maybe the rapport isn't there right now, and he's behind in the times. But we're not going to see this kid until mid-October now. So I heard the bye week is early. Yeah, the bye week is in week 6. He comes out of the bye week. I saw he has the Eagles that week. Probably not going to be thrilled about starting that. What are we doing now? We're holding a J.J. McCarthy until week 8. We're looking at 2 months now. So that's why I would be more inclined to drop him, put one of these guys on my roster, like a Stafford, Bryce Young, Penix, any of these guys, and go from there if you're trying to improve your quarterback room, because you're not getting anything out of J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, I don't see J.J. starting before the bye. They need time for this offensive line to come together because they've been doing him no favors. And, with Wentz – and also, I mean, I do think it's, there's been stuff out on Twitter that it's not really an ankle injury. This is a wink thing. Just
it kind of looks that way because the second to last play, he was running pretty well when he threw that pass.
Yeah, but I mean, also he's under adrenaline. He's
that's
all
true.
taped
That's
up
true.
and everything. you've rolled an ankle before, and it's a lot worse the next day than it is when it happens. So I'm not going to sit here and doubt it, because I think that O'Connell knows the best thing for him to do is get him back out there if that's possible. But since it's not, I just don't see him trying to rush him back. Let that ankle heal all the way. Let the offensive line get out there and gel, and then worry about getting him back. So, and your point, Chris, is an excellent one about having the Eagles right off the bye. That's probably not a game where you'd be wanting to play JJ.
Sure.
And as a matter of fact, that might be, you could probably even wait an extra week to pick him up if you're so inclined. Yeah. Wait till that game's over, and the price will probably go down even a little bit more.
Yeah. Real quick, we didn't mention it up top, but obviously we're a man down today. Our guy Nelson, he had a little bit of an emergency in case for everybody asking where Nelson is. But Nelson's all good, and he'll be back on the show next week.
Yeah, so that is not a family emergency. It's a plumbing emergency. So we'll be clear about that. Last thing, I think where I have Burrow, I'm probably going to drop him before waivers run, just so I know nobody will be able to bid on him this week, but I want people to see him out there and be thinking about that when they're setting their waivers this week, and thinking, because there's going to be somebody in pretty much every league who's like, oh, I'm going to go get Joe Burrow and put him on my team and just hold him. I guarantee it.
I'm dropping him. I'm
dropping him too. Yeah. But I want.
You're talking home league, Dan. You're talking home league. You're talking home leagues where people are going to bid money to go get Joe Burrow for a possible Week 16. Go ahead if you want to spend on that.
I think in like a month or so we'll start seeing everybody. I'm going to take him as a stash.
I think people will know that he's out there. I'm not saying they'll bid on him in the next week or so, but people are going to know that he's out there, and they're going to be thinking about it. So.
Yeah. Our guy Marty in the chat wants to know what's a bid for Daniel Jones. I got to tell you right now, I think Daniel Jones will go for at least 30% or higher of your fab bid.
That's fair.
I think the train is really gaining steam on Daniel Jones being that late round quarterback big hit this year. That's the chatter right now. The Baker Mayfield of last year. There was someone else last year. Guys, help me out. Anybody pop into mind? Whoever it was. There was two guys last year that were late. So he's got weapons. He's in a good offense. He runs. Everybody's just been burned by Daniel Jones in the past. I just looked at it as a different year this year. That's why I was in on him as a backup quarterback. And it's a different coaching staff, different offense, different everything, different offensive line. They got him some talent sometimes. So it was a good chance to take on a backup quarterback. If he bombed out for the first couple weeks, it was an easy drop in round 19 or 20. I didn't understand why he wasn't getting drafted. So he'll be a big bid if he's available in any of your leagues. Matt, you said he's available in a prime?
Yes, he is available in a prime. And I think what you're saying is 100% right. I think we're the Burrow team, so we need him most, but there's other teams.
You want me to throw out a number for you then, Matt? Do you think?
Yes.
I'm going to say 400 minimum Daniel Jones if you're the Burrow
I don't
owner.
think that's outrageous.
Yeah. No, it's not.
I don't know if my partner's going that high, but
if you want him.
No. Look,
I'm just saying.
I think Browning's going for 150 and over 200. So
I'm
Daniel
sure
Jones
he will too.
More.
I'm sure he will
just
too.
Look at that offense. Mm-hmm. You have Downs, you have the Warren, and then on the outside you got Pierce and Pittman. And Pierce is not a fantasy asset, but he's a real life asset. That guy just, he catches at least one big pass a game, and moves change. Everything's rolling. JT. Steichen looks like a genius because there was a lot of controversy. Like, why didn't he go give this young kid a chance? They took him. He knew he needed somebody to run the offense. And they haven't punted in 2 games.
Sure.
And Denver's supposedly the best defense in the league.
And they move the ball up and down the field. They got a good offensive line. They obviously have a top 5 running back in JT.
Maybe one.
It's
right
there for
now.
Daniel Jones to make a run at a top 12 quarterback season right now. And again, if you're the Burrow owner or maybe a Jaden Daniels, we get news in the next day or two that he's going to be out a week or two. Another guy that, is going to be popular to go get. So
it's going to be wild.
It will be. It will be.
All right. Well, real quick, we're gonna pay some bills, and we'll be right back and get into some more good stuff.
Hey, I love fantasy football. I love card collecting, and there is a new innovator in the fantasy space, which I also love, called Game Blazers, that is combining the joy of ripping packs with the joy of fantasy sports. And it's a free-to-play game. We're talking about $35,000 every week in guaranteed prizes, $750,000 total this year. They're going to be giving out in guaranteed prizes in a free-to-play game. Go to GameBlazers.com. The code is Player100. Player100 gets you a $100 deposit match at Game Blazers. You go there, you sign up for free, you start ripping packs, and then jump into their mini games. You get some experience points, you upgrade your cards, and then boom, 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 you're set up to exploit a new fantasy game with lots of guaranteed money. Go to GameBlazers.com. The code is Player100 for that $100 deposit match, and you can thank me later.
All right, welcome back. I think we've hit quarterbacks pretty well, so let's dig into the week 1 games. And Matt, what do you got? What did you see this past? Or I'm sorry, week 2 games. What did you see this past week?
I'm gonna wait for the next time to talk about rookie running backs, but I will. The first thing I just wanted to do is, I always hear week 1 is a lie, which I do kind of agree with, and I don't think week 2 is the truth in most instances neither. I mean, I usually prefer to see 4 weeks of data. Obviously, we do a weekly show. I can't wait for 4 weeks to tell you, and you got to make moves, and I got to do the same thing. But, for me, it's just how incredibly different the first 2 rounds would be right now.
Oh, man.
If you did a draft tomorrow.
I'd throw 3 in, actually, Matt.
Yeah,
I'd 3 rounds, actually.
For me, one of the best picks on the board right now, for price-wise, was James Cook. And I'm a Bills fan. I mentioned it last week. I was worried because last year he got those big runs and those touchdowns. And I'm like, I don't know if he can do it again. I think he can do it again. Mm-hmm. And I think without him, that team is drastically different. Ray Davis is not on the same level as James Cook. I thought he would be more involved, so I was completely wrong on that. And, is JT like the 1-1? I mean, him and CNC right now are probably the top 2 guys. Bijan would be there, but, the Algier, Bijan should have had
It's so annoying. It's so frustrating still again with the
Algier. Should he not have had a 30-burger or more on
Easily. And you know what, Matt, he's so by far the best running back in football, in my opinion. Bijan, when you watch him, the talent, the cuts, the speed, the pass catching ability, he is the 1-1. He's the top guy. He was my 1-1.
I think him and Gibbs, though. I think Gibbs. He has my.
I can't argue. Gibbs is
but
right there
both
as well.
Of those guys.
But fantasy wise,
with his
it's
size,
funny.
That's what makes him the better one of the 2. With Gibbs, he's elusive and everything else, but Bijan's got all that and the size to truck people.
You mentioned the 2 guys that it's funny. I just had this conversation with a friend last night, and I talked about McCaffrey and Taylor, the 2 running backs you want. They don't leave the field,
mm-hmm.
Okay? These 2 guys do not leave the field. They can both catch. Jonathan Taylor could catch the ball out of the backfield. There was this myth that he wasn't a good pass-catching running back, okay? This is what you need in fantasy now. It's why I shifted my mentality in the last couple of years to getting the bell cow running backs early. I spoke about it on the show the last couple of weeks about Jonathan Taylor, my most owned running back this year. He was the guy in any part of second round I was clicking on to build my teams. I thought he belonged as a top 8 player off the board this year. These guys don't leave the field. And in fantasy football nowadays, with so much everything getting spread around, so many backfields being split 50-50, 60-40, whatever, to get a guy that doesn't leave the field and catches the ball, and every snap he's going to be there somehow, with the ability to get you points and get in the end zone, it's just gold nowadays. Okay, we've only seen 2 weeks of football, right, Matt? Like you said, I like this the same way. I can't really judge things until 3 or 4 weeks in, but there's too much 8 to 13 point players, like just straight across the board. All these receivers that we loved, go up and down the list. The Lad McConkey's 5 for 50, Drake London, Brian Tom, all these guys. We just sit around and we pray that a small handful of guys are the 30 plus, the Neighbors type game, the Jonathan Taylor game. There's too much mediocrity right now in fantasy football on too many teams. So when you could get the heavy volume guy, the elite target hound like a Neighbors, and the running backs, like I said, McCaffrey, Taylor, these are the guys that you need to win fantasy football.
Look at Puka and Amon-Ra. They were fringe first-round picks going in the second-round pick, second round. And so, if we were drafted today, that's a totally different story. Look, there's still look at last year. Jamar Chase was terrible after 2 weeks. Terry McLaurin, who wound up putting up, 16 touchdowns last year. He wasn't good after 2 weeks neither. So, you really can't tell people you got to have patience when you're 0-2 and you really didn't score any points. Like, if you have a Burrow team and you're 0-2, you probably have 200 points because, they haven't scored any points. You're really in trouble. So,
yeah, you are. But, for the most part, who you've got is who you've got. You can make fringe moves on the waiver wire, but, you're going to be – you're hoping for a savior coming off the waiver wire, or you're hoping that your players will catch fire. That's basically what you're down to. And,
Dan, this was actually Matt hit on one of my observations just right there about how differently the first 3 rounds were. But before I jump into a couple that I see glaring, do you have any that stand out to you that you would be, a total flip right off the top of your head, Dan?
As far as players I'd be moving,
just
way up?
Maybe like an instant regret, and how you had one guy over another guy in the first 3 rounds, or how different the board would be. Is there anything that stands out to you?
Personally, I didn't grab enough Jonathan Taylor. What stands out to me is how much different that guy looks when you have a team that can actually sustain drives versus a team that's punting all the time.
Yeah.
That's what Taylor needed. And that's what he's getting this year, because a lot of, there was a good stretch last year where he was just not really all that. And that, I guess, was a little bit too hard for me to ignore. So, I have some, but I wish I had more, especially at the prices that he was going at.
Yeah. So here's a couple of my instant. I know it's 2 weeks, like I said, and we could be sitting here next week, and it could be totally flipped. Like, look at Josh Allen and Derrick Henry, from week 1 to week 2. These weird things are going to happen, but instant kind of regrets, not regrets, just things that I think people would be shaking their head at is like going forward, Jonathan Taylor and Devin Achane over Chase Brown. Everybody was taking Chase Brown early second round as that running back, passing on Jonathan Taylor and Devin Achane, who were going in the middle of the second round, later second round. That would be totally flipped, in my opinion. I'd be real worried about Chase Brown going forward without Burrow. I don't think he's going to be a complete bust, but, I would have Achane and Taylor over.
Achane at least got an injury. Had that injury thing that scared a lot of people. That's I could at least go there, because I was big on Achane.
But even before the injury, Matt, Chase Brown was going in that 13 to 15 range before Achane most of the time.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll speak for myself. Yeah. I was drafted Achane end of the first round or anytime in the second round. And then when that injury hit, I'm like, you know what? I got to cool it here because I got double-digit shares right now. And just thinking of CMC with the calf last year. How that
right. But with Achane, don't you guys think that there's at least a little bit of danger with the fact that he's just hardly getting anything per rush? His yards per carry is terrible. And I know that, hey, he catches passes, all that kind of stuff. But it's, he's really, really reliant on Tua right now.
But if he stays in bounds, that's another 30 yards and a touchdown. And Miami probably wins a game they had no business even being in.
He's not when he's Jahmyr Gibbs' clone now.
Yeah, he's a special
gonna
player.
catch.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But if you don't have Tua in there, I think it's a different story. I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if A-Chain has 2 bad weeks. We're going, oh no, he never belonged. He didn't even belong in the second round. He should have been a 4th rounder.
I'll counter to the point where, not that I think this guy is like anything exceptional, but I think Quinn Evers could run an offense better than, say, Skylar Thompson or whatever garbage they were putting in there in the past.
Well, they got Zach Wilson now for their backup.
I don't think Zach Wilson is. I mean, I gotta think.
I'll take either of them over Skylar Thompson. That's for sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's fair, Dan. What you said is fair about there is risk in that, but
Yeah,
I mentioned it real quick last week, but another week of data and evidence to the end of the second round where AJ Brown wouldn't get out of the second round, Ladd McConkey, and then T Higgins. Those were every draft was taking its exact form, and then who would come after that? JSN. Nobody would take any of those 3 guys over JSN right now. JSN belonged in the middle of the second round before those 3 receivers. Mm-hmm. Especially now with the T. Higgins hit. I don't even know where you would take
But
T.
Chris,
Higgins.
now that you mentioned JSN, I mean, Cooper Kupp had kind of like a sneaky quiet 7 for 90. And like Sam Darnold, he's somebody that we should be considering.
He's on that list.
You look last year, how many 300-yard games or 280 yards with touchdowns? I know he had JJ and stuff, but he's got JSN. If Cooper Kupp is anything, and if Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet can catch passes,
definitely will be in the mix. Not a heavy bid. Scotty Angle checking in, talking about his JSN. Darnold will be there. He's not a 0 on the ground either, right? He could chip in 20, 25 rushing yards every week to help you out. Maybe a play action pass at the goal line and run it in around the corner. He's on that streamer quarterback list if you're the Burrow owner, no doubt. You might have to live with those clunkers, though, right? You might have to live with those 10-point weeks, and that's what we're trying to avoid. But if you pick him up and you play him in good matchups and hit on those weeks where he's 25 points, you survive and advance. That's what we're playing here with the Burrow owners. Back to that point, we're surviving and advancing each week and putting one of our 3 quarterbacks in to get us to the following week and going on and on and on. So. That was definitely one. And then all those receivers in that 5th and 6th round, give me Rome Odunze over all of them. That's something that I would, switch. I would take Rome Odunze over T. Higgins right now, rest of the season.
Definitely.
Yes, just because you're talking about Rome, was something I was going to mention before. I mean, it's just clear. He's doubled DJ Moore in target share for the first 2 weeks. And I saw a stat by one of these like sleeper or somebody like, Caleb Williams has 12 touchdowns and 1 interceptions in his last 12 games. Yeah, he's thrown 1 touchdown a game with 200 yards average. I don't understand going forward, though. This is what I want to see this week and going forward. If I'm a defense facing the Bears, how do you not take Rome Odunze out? Like, that's got to be job number 1. And I'm not saying they're going to do that or he's not going to be successful. Everything Chris said is 100% right. He has been a baller these first 2 weeks. And as I mentioned, doubled DJ Moore in target share. But that to me has got to be
his next step. Matt, that'll be his next step to see if could be, I think he's going on that projection, trajectory of being an elite alpha 1.
That's
now, when you hit that level, now that you're coming into as Rome Odunze, now you're going to start seeing more attention, more number 1 corners, more. Now, can you handle that? I think he can. I think he is a true alpha 1. And we'll see. Yeah, he'll start getting more attention now.
And I'm actually coming around to you. I'm coming around to it. I agree. I think he is. I think the concern now is, can Caleb elevate him? Like, can Caleb elevate his game to make him that guy that, so that's what I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, I love the fact that Bears defense looks like shit as well. And you're playing games like Detroit just went up and down the field, smoked them. That's another, positive when you're in on the Bears passing game. And then take it to another level. Listen, we were sitting here 3 weeks ago. Everybody was in love with Colston Loveland, right? He was a top 110 player. top 10 tight end off the board, and everybody was loving Luther Burden. I don't even know if Luther Burden's in the NFL right now. I
agree, but I think those two are very good players.
Oh, no. I do too.
That will make a difference.
No, I do too. But, Matt, my point is, coming into the year, people were a little backing off of Rome Odunze because they were like, well, how's everybody going to get fed? You got Burden, you got Loveland, you got DJ Moore, the clear one. Like, why is Rome Odunze a 5th or 6th round pick? And now, 2 weeks later, Loveland and Burden haven't gotten off the ground yet, right? And DJ Moore's taking a backseat to Rome. So now all of a sudden, the whole picture's changed. When you're a Rome Odunze owner, I have a bunch of Rome Odunze shares. He's my wide receiver 4 on all those builds, okay? To me, that's how you get your teams to go to another level, is if this guy performs like a second rounder when I was drafting him in the late 5th and 6th round now, okay? I wish I had even more of them, but I mixed it up a little bit at that turn. Get drafting a Chris Olave, a Jalen Waddle. I wish, and I was all in on Odunze. I just wish I was all in to the point where I didn't even mix it up, and I just took him because I thought he was the value there. But this guy needs, hopefully Loveland and Burden stay a little more in the background until mid-season or later on. They're probably going to come around later on in the year. But if this offense still plays out like this the first 2 weeks, Odunze, is going to be a target monster and perform like a top 30 overall wide receiver.
That's what it's trending.
I'm sorry, not wide receiver, top 30 overall player on the board.
I think the Bears' biggest sin, I forget, did they have like 6 picks in the top 4 rounds and never drafted a running back prospect?
Yeah,
that's got to be the biggest sin.
That's what made me such a big Kyle Monangai believer, because DeAndre Swift is just he always finds a way to dribble that opportunity down his leg. So,
I thought you were going to say something.
Heck yeah! Shout out to the Harry. Shout out to Harry Snowman checking in this year again.
Yeah.
We always appreciate his comments in the chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
Well, let's take it to the tight end position, guys, because we are in a crisis already.
Yeah, you hit on my top point too there. So let's go. Let's get it.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because the week 2 got off with a bang. Tucker Kraft, who I think
baby Kittle.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly who he looks like out there. He's running routes down the field. He's running wide open. He's the focal point of this Green Bay passing game. I am completely, in love with what I see with Tucker Kraft. We've talked about him the last couple of weeks on the show. He's my most owned tight end with Tyler Warren. 2 guys that I think are going to be the key to success at the tight end position in fantasy world. Just because you cannot look at this tight end position, what it is right now, and see an answer. If we already lost Kittle, Brock Bowers. I think you're going to be in store for a slow rest of September, maybe early October. He's got this injury. He's going to play through it. But you could tell last night he's not himself, and they're not going to force feed him the ball like they did last year.
And Gino was awful.
But regardless, when you get these guys that are banged up and they're not hurt enough to sit out, but they're not healthy enough to dominate, you get a Brock Bowers 5 for 50 weekly. So I think if you pull the trigger on Brock Bowers second round, you're going to have to stomach an early season disappointment a little bit. Maybe I'm
He's
wrong.
Probably not going to be fully healthy until after the bye in week 8.
Exactly. That leads me to this point, guys. I'm sorry. Trey McBride is going to be one of the biggest difference makers in fantasy world this year. He's the one guy that can consistently give you 20 to 25 every week. And I think now the tight end position as a whole is so, there's such a big gap, okay, that a guy like McBride is going to be that difference maker that like a Kelsey was 2-3 years ago and prior to that, where he was dropping 25 every week and everyone else was just hoping for a 10 or a 12. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to. I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Just because we were talking about tight end.
Yeah.
The one thing I found like so weird this past waiver run on Wednesday night was the NFC versus the FFPC in tight end bids. Then in NFFC, I was seeing Fanning go for like 500. Juwan Jennings going for over high twos 300.
Johnson.
Johnson. I'm sorry. I mean, Juwan Johnson, you got him in the GST. I had 199. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm a little too high here. I put him down to like 159. You got him for 182.
Yeah.
And it was the opposite, and I was like blown away by that.
That's weird. That's weird to me because to me after week 1, Juwan Johnson was a clear heavy ad and a heavy bid, and I wish I got more of him. I didn't because the bids were pretty high in NFFC. But I think he's going to be a guy that you can rely on as a top 8 tight end. The volume is there. He runs almost 100% of the routes. They're always going to be losing. There's not much in the pass game. You have Olave and Shaheed, but Juwan Johnson's right there with him. He's basically another wide receiver. I think that's one of those guys that's going to be an answer as a late round tight end type player. That's
San
big
Francisco
for owners.
Just absolutely kills the tight end position every year. Yeah. And he produced even against them. So, to me, that, I think it's wheels up on Juwan Johnson for the rest of the year for all the reasons you just mentioned.
But let's look at that. Wait, I'm sorry, Dan. Just real quick, let me wrap that up because, to my point with McBride early and then Warren and Kraft being the answer, okay? That's going to be your bailout right there with Warren and Kraft. Those owners are going to have they're going to stay in the game, okay, against the McBride, Bowers, and Kittle owners, okay, because you have a whole section of tight ends that are just garbage right now. Evan Ingram, Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Njoku, Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland was right there on the board with those guys. These guys are 8 points or less guys. Like, this is a wipeout. And Laporta, even though he had a really nice week 1, and I'm not going to panic, they just scored 52 points, went up and down the field, and he scored 5 fantasy points. So this is a big week for Laporta coming up. What do you want to do, Sam Laporta? Are you going to join the top 6 tight end crew that can give you 12 to 16 points every week, or are you just going to go be with the Evan Ingrams and the Hawkinsons of the world, fade into oblivion, and that's it.
That's going to be what it is. That's going to be what it is, Chris, because there's just too many options there, and they don't feature the tight end position heavily enough. Yeah. I got a little bit away from what I normally do, and this is how I normally handle the mid-round tight ends. For the most part, I don't draft them because you're paying for last year's production. If you drafted Ingram and Njoku, Hawkinson, Mandrews, all those guys, you're kind of paying Laporta. You're paying for last year's production. What you want to draft in those middle rounds are the upcoming guys. The guys that might actually be good this year. The Krafts. The Warrens, and you got to throw Loveland in there because it's not 100%. Hey, 2 out of 3 hit, that's pretty good. But if you're going to draft in the middle rounds, don't pay for the moldy old guys. Pay for the young up and comers, and I think you've got at least as good, if not a better, chance that way.
Well, shout out to Dan because I did ask in our text thread last week about Juwan Johnson because I was going to be putting in some heavy bids on FFPC. Which I was able to win most of them. But Dan was like, he's running the routes. And that's different from when they had him in line, So, through 2 games, he's got 20 targets. Olave has 23. So that's looking pretty good. And for all the other reasons you guys stated.
Dan, your point is Dan, your point is spot on with the, you want the upside at tight end. So you go with the Crafts, the Warrens, stuff like that. But a lot of people look at it the other way when they're like, you know what? I'm in the 8th, 9th round. Let me get the safety of a 12 points for TJ Hawkinson with the upside of maybe a 6 for 60 and a touchdown. Now you're at 18, 20 points.
You can get that with Hunter Henry. You can get that with Ertz. You can get that with these guys later on. That's the point.
I don't know
you don't
about
have to pay for the, because those are just the guys that everybody's pushing up.
Yeah.
You can get that safety later on in the draft. And
Zach Ertz has been
every
great.
year.
Yeah, Zach Ertz has been great for the first 2 weeks. Maybe he's the veteran that, Zach Ertz was basically going.
Did you see how fast he was on that catch? I couldn't believe it was Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
Quickest I've seen him move in a while, that's for sure.
and maybe we were just 1 year off with the the Jake Ferguson. He's another one that was coming right off the board right after those guys that we all just mentioned that look like early season bust. And in that offense, he is a 2B to George Pickens. And there's enough volume to go around. You're going to have to probably live with some 3 for 25 weeks from Jake Ferguson, but then you're going to get the week that we just had this past week, a 9 for 80. You're going to get those weeks where he scores, and he's a 15-point tight end. So he's another top 10 tight end. So the tight end position is all over the map. It's 2 weeks in, and we're already in desperation time. And you're just begging for a touchdown every week from your tight end position. Unless
this is why you take them early or late, or just grab those upside guys.
And anybody that has Kincaid, you really need a Knox injury. You need Knox out of the picture.
It's funny. I said last week I have so many Kincaid Pitts, a lot of Kincaid Pitts teams, and I was debating because after week 1 they both had nice games, and I said they're both in good positions this upcoming week. And I was like, who should I go with? And I was going back and forth. I wound up splitting them pretty much. They both gave 4 catches for 37 yards and a 7.7. And I said, there you go.
What's crazy, though, about Pitts is he ran 100% of the routes.
He looks good.
He looks great.
This is the second week in a row. He's got 8 targets. So
give me Pitts over Kincaid moving forward.
Yeah. I think he's over
Pitts over Kincaid moving forward because of a couple of things. Number one, you get all those routes. Number two, with Kincaid, there's just so much, so many other options in the passing game. I mean, and then you get games like this last week against the Jets where they barely had to pass at all.
Which might happen Thursday night as well.
Kincaid can get snuffed out. I don't see Atlanta being in situations where they can just totally throttle down the passing game like Buffalo can.
Well, that's being that you mentioned that, Dan. I have this in my notes because I've been watching the Falcons closely these past 2 games. The first game they came out, they threw 42 passes. Sunday night they came out between Algier and Bijan, which is back to it's not Bijan. It's Bijan.
You heard that on. You heard that.
That's crazy.
It was like Bijan Gate. They like, what's his real name?
They ran it 38 times. The head coach specifically said he wants to be able to run the ball. You have these 2 running backs. That makes sense. This is an interesting game at Carolina. Do they just run it down the Panthers' throats? I'm just going to be watching it just to see how they attack this game. To me, it's an interesting thing after the first 2 weeks. Maybe not to nobody else, but I found that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we all watched that game. Algier was in the mix, but you know what? At the end of the day, his numbers were escalated because late in the fourth, they just gave him that whole last drive, and he got carry after carry. So, it's still
no.
It's still
I'm not talking about
20.
that. I'm not talking about Bijan versus Algier. I'm talking about, are they going to become a more run-based team than we expected? We expected they couldn't run the ball. They lost a key offensive lineman. And they have these 2 backs. I mean, Bijan is clearly ahead, in my opinion, and pretty much everybody else. But are they going to – the coach wants to run it. Is that going to be a thing we'll see more of as we thought this was going to be a pass-heavy team? That's my argument or observation.
When you got an all-world running back, you gotta make sure he gets his 15, 20 times. What I love, though, is that – even when they're not, he's split out. He's running, routes out of the backfield. He's going to get those 4 or 5 catches every week. He's unstoppable in the open field. Love everything. I love everything with him. But yeah, Penix took a little bit of a step back this past week.
So let's move to some. I don't know if these are the running backs that Matt was going to talk about, but I want to throw Travion Henderson, R.J. Harvey, and I guess Ashton Jeanty as well.
I wasn't going to be the one to bring it up, man. I wasn't going to be the one to bring it up, man.
I was going to bring it up. I think we got to put Hanford in there as well.
Everybody is freaking out about these guys. I mean, so let's go through those 4. Do you think the freak out is warranted or not on each of the 4?
I don't think the 3 count is warranted on any of them, and that's someone that was complete fade on Trevion. There's no victory lapping here. And let's throw, I want to talk about the rookie running backs in general. That was going to be one of my observations, Dan. You can't forget a guy like Caleb Johnson. Okay, that was a top 100
That
pick.
was the worst play
and he was the worst pick out of every. So he was a top 100 pick on the board. He's given nothing. All the rookie running backs have disappointed so far. Okay?
Yeah, so far. But I mean, some of those later ones are coming on, which we can talk about in a minute. But let's get back to the top four. Let's cover them in order real quick. Ashton Jeanty, you guys have any concerns about how he got used this past week, or are you just like, hey, this is just part of being a rookie and everybody needs to just take a chill pill and relax?
I'm concerned about where they're running the offense. And there was one pass play. He was terrible. I don't know what the hell he was doing. He was running around while everybody was taking it. But I do love the way the kid runs. I was more concerned about this past game. They tried throwing deep to Thornton a couple of times. Then they abandoned that and late in the game down when they got a score. I don't know. That was concerning to me, just the way they attacked that game.
I'm not worried about Jeanty.
Okay.
Out of all this group, he passes the eye test, looks good. They're throwing him out of the backfield. Now, did I love seeing Dylan Lobby in the 2-minute drill? And
that's a good point.
Zamir White, getting some touches mixed in as well. I would like to see. I was hoping Jeanty would be like 90% on the field. I still think he'll have his games. He got into a bad game script last night. They had to kind of abandon the run second half.
That's how I saw it.
Jeanty passes the complete eye test. I'm not worried about him. The power, the speed, everything. Not really worried, but I'll say this, Dan, it probably wouldn't be a first-round pick where he went. Nobody would take him over Jonathan Taylor right now.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. I think he's definitely more in the back end running back one, maybe an early running back two, something like that. How about Amarian Hampton? A little bit concerning last night on his usage as well.
Very concerned.
Yeah,
very.
I was going to add the very in there.
Very, yeah, throw me, and that's one guy. I am a little invested in Jeanty, and I'm a little invested in Hampton. Hampton, when he was starting to fall to the fourth round, he's on some of my teams. Hampton has got two issues right now. They didn't credit the fumble to him late in the game. I still don't. If you saw the play, I'm sure you guys did. It really wasn't his fault. As soon as the ball got put in his hands, Max Crosby was on top of him, and it got knocked out. They credited Herbert with that fumble, but he had that fumble. He had the mental mistake in week one. I'm worried that maybe they start going like, all right, at the end of the day, I think him and Harris had the same amount of carries. They're not relying on Hampton as much as I thought they were. I thought Hampton would come out and be a 15 to 18 carry type running back. He had the opportunities inside the 3-yard line 2 in a row. Got stuffed. I'm worried that he doesn't pay off his price, and I think his playing time gets reduced now with the emergence of Harris going forward. And maybe this for a third or fourth round pick in Hampton, maybe it's like a 60-40 split his way over Harris. That's not what you signed up for when you drafted Amarian Hampton. So, yeah, big time regret with him right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned, but I still think there's hope here with this run offense, especially if the pass offense is going to be as productive as it has in the first 2 weeks. I think as we go on, they'll open it up, and I do think he is talented. But, yes, concerned, absolutely.
All right. How about Travion Henderson?
Yes.
That's one that could cause a lot of concern. I mean, I think you can look at it a couple different ways. Number one, he committed 2 holding penalties on offense, 1 on special teams, and when you commit penalties like that, you're just not going to play. I saw on Coach Speak Index that Vrabel was saying that the long play that Ramondre had was actually designed for Travion, but he wasn't in there because of his performance. And
that was maddening.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. But on the other hand, and as Scott Kobe points out in the chat, Vrabel, he definitely loves going with a banger in the backfield. And, that's probably the bigger long-term concern with Travion. I mean, I expected Travion. I drafted a ton of Travion, no doubt about it. But I also expected him to not necessarily be great early in the year. He was somebody who I felt was going to be coming on. I made sure on Travion teams I had 2 other starting running backs for the most part.
Okay, that's a great point right there, Dan. That was going to be what I said, because what I said weeks ago when we were talking about the Trevion Henderson third rounder, that everybody was falling all over themselves to draft this kid in the third round. If you got off to a slow start here, okay, Trevion in a lot of drafters builds in the third round, he's your RB1. And I was saying, could you live with 5 points the first couple of weeks if that happens and he's off to a slow start? You're 0-2 right now. I don't want to hear, no, I'm 2-0. I overcome it. You had to draft the J.K. Dobbins, the Jalen Warrens, the Tony Pollards of the world. Maybe you got lucky with a couple other running backs in rounds 7 through 12. But let's be honest here, guys. If you guys are Trevion Henderson owners, has he been on your bench the first 2 weeks?
He has not, but I'm not 0-2 in all those leagues. And another thing that's important, Chris, and I've stated this prior, I did draft him in, say, the late 3rd or early 4th in a couple. But my shares are mostly 5th and 6th round. You know what I'm saying? Even in the high stakes, even in the mains, and even in the primes. But here was the thing that really, like Dan said, that play was designed for him. That was a smash game for him. They said they were going to use him more, and he got blown up on that play. Mm-hmm. But as good as everybody's saying that Ramondre looked, which he did look good in this game, let's not forget how bad Ramondre looked in week 1. And that's Ramondre Stevenson. Mm-hmm. And yes, has it been the ideal? No. Has it been the ideal start? No. That was a smash game for him. Again, though, I still think they're going to need him to be a better team going forward. There's really nobody outside of May on that offense, including Butte, who made a beautiful catch on a beautiful pass. That's really startable. Like you could say, it's startable with confidence.
Right, one of those weird teams. Yeah, it's one of those weird teams that offensively it works, but there's nobody that you put in your line, and that's including Diggs. I don't think Diggs is playable right now. You don't play anybody. But Matt, to my point, Trevion Henderson, even someone like me that it was a full fake. I'm not saying that he's not going to be real good and a big time contributor in fantasy in week 8, 10, 12 I'm just saying you're going to be 2-7 when you get there and he starts popping off. That's my point. That's my concern. Listen, Matt, take yourself out of this conversation.
No, but I'm just trying to make a point.
I'm not talking about the round 5.
No, forget the round 5.
Round 6 guys that you drafted in June and July. That's not the topic here. The topic is for the last month he was a 3rd rounder, and that's where 90% of drafters have him at.
But you're saying everybody's 0-2. What if you drafted Malik Neighbors, Puka?
No. That's not the argument. No. You can't look at it that way. You can't look at it.
But what? That's what happens.
Neighbors went crazy. You drafted Neighbors and Jonathan Taylor, and then you drafted Trevion in round 3.
But you're saying everybody's 0-2, which is
I'm saying you took Trevion Henderson in round 3, okay, like everyone else did, okay, and he's your RB1, and he's giving you 5 points. That you can't survive with these guys, the Harveys.
You got to have other options.
You can't paint the perfect scenario. I got Neighbors and
Taylor.
No,
I'm saying you're saying everybody's 0-2, and I'm saying that's not.
No, that's not what I'm saying. He's an 0-2 type player. Matt,
he is an 0-2 type player. I will give you that.
Yes, I agree.
That's my point.
But there was a smart way to draft.
He's an 0-2 type player right now.
Flip it around.
But there was a smart way to draft with Trevion.
Brown in rounds 1 and 2, and then you came back with Trevion.
Yeah,
you're 0-2.
There was a smart way to draft with Trevion, and that was going and getting like a Travis Etienne. Who I had pegged as somebody who was going to have early value, or Javonte Williams, who I had as somebody who's going to have early season value. Guys like that, those are the ones who I was taking as soon as I pivoted off of As soon as I pivoted off a wide receiver, then I went right back to that running back. Well, tried to grab a couple guys like that. Didn't work in every league, but it worked in most of them.
But that's an excellent point, Dan.
Yep.
You had to, though, but not everybody did that, Matt.
Not everybody.
No. He made an excellent point.
Most people said Trevion's going to hit the – hold on, Matt. Most people said Trevion's going to hit the ground running. I'm going to have R.J. Harvey in the fifth. I'm going to get 20 points from each guy right off the bat. And
I don't think anybody was saying that. You know.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Everybody was in love with Trevion.
No, people. Yes, he was
in the third round, locked in as an elite RB1 right off the bat.
Okay.
If you drafted him in round 3, you weren't expecting 4 to 6 points each week and a slow start with no outlook looking rosy in these next couple of weeks. Okay, so now you're playing the long game with them. Right now, outlook wise, it's a losing pick. Okay. To Dan's point, if you weren't smart enough to build the team the right way and go get those veterans that were locked in early, I'm not going to repeat the names. We know Warren, Dobbins, those guys, and have them in. You definitely had Trevion Henderson in your lineup. I don't want to see anybody say I drafted him in round 3, but I benched him in week 1 and week 2. So now you've eaten 2 shit sandwiches the first 2 weeks with not only Henderson, but with Harvey, if you were crazy enough to start a Caleb Johnson, Jeanty and Hampton, right now they've been in my lineups the first 2 weeks. They've struggled, okay? But these guys like Henderson and Harvey, people were moving them up the board to have them in your starting lineup. And right now it's backfired big time. Now, what are you going to do come week 3 as a Trevion Henderson owner is the question. Are you going to your bench and you're bringing in guys, or you're just going to sit there through mid-October and take Trevion Henderson 6 points each week as your RB1, which means you're probably in a weak running back room because he's your 1, and you didn't expect this, okay? You passed on a James Cook and so on and so forth here for the likes of a Trevion Henderson. So what are you guys doing? And I'm not just saying you, I'm talking our audience. Mm-hmm. What do you do now? Do you bench Trevion Henderson until he starts getting his season going, or yes. What?
Yeah, well, Dan, you go, and then
all right. So you do. If you've got better options, you do. If you don't, you're in real trouble. I mean, if you're sitting around with a bunch of RB0 candidates that haven't fired yet, and Trevion is one of the players you were counting on, I'm going to tell you, number 1, you drafted wrong, and number 2, you made your bed. Now you got to lie in it. It's tough. It's tough news, but that's the way it is. You just, if you're going to draft a guy like that high, that the early season role is going to be shaky, you've got to have to have drafted different. Otherwise, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and just go back to Dan's point here. He mentioned a Travis Etienne, which I have some Etienne shares, but I have a lot more Tootin. I was in on the Tootin train. So a guy like Travis Etienne, who's been great the first 2 weeks, 16 or 17, 18, 19 points, for the first 2 weeks. I see a running back that they made a trade the week prior that is going to – it looks like I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it looks an awful like Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. That this one guy just looks like such a better runner than Travis Etienne. I mean, I think Tootin train eventually, sooner than later, much more than earlier than I expected, is going to take off. And as far as like Harvey goes, I drafted J.K. Dobbins as well. I have a couple of teams with Harvey and Dobbins just because of the Sean Payton running back team. So, and the other running –
Who'd you start the first 2 weeks?
I started both of them the first 2 weeks.
Together?
Yep.
I had Harvey on my bench.
I mean, they were playing Tennessee.
And I had him on my bench about probably 70% in week 1, to be honest.
I mean, if you're watching Harvey in the limited actions, I don't understand how he's so limited.
Now they're playing Tyler Beatty as well, so now you got a 3-headed mess.
And going forward, I have to figure that out. But it's just seeing the kid's potential, what he could do. I don't understand how he is not getting more. He is somebody that you can't say doesn't deserve that.
He'll get it. So, remember, Kamara after 2 weeks was doing nothing too. So,
And yes, exactly. But also look at the Giants. the Tracy Truthers, if you're a Tracy Truther, you're looking like, whoa. Because this kid, Skattebo, I mean, week one, his offensive lineman tackled him on like the 1 yard line, like against Washington. You know, that was just a shit show of a game. But this kid is showing you. So, it's just like you say, can you be patient? You know, you got to put some of these guys in coming into this week. Like, shooting on some teams, you might have to play. You might have to play Skattebo on some. I mean, look at the guys that were going in similar rounds. Are you feeling good about Tony Pollard? Are you feeling good about Isaiah Pacheco or Swift going? At least Swift has gotten a touchdown. But are you feeling good about those guys? I don't think so. I mean, outside, once that dead zone, I'd rather have the rookie running backs than those dead zone backs going forward. 100%. I mean, that's not even a argument.
So let's transition.
I don't know if that is I don't know if that is an argument, Matt, because you're talking, again, third round Trevion and fifth round Harvey compared to seventh round Pollard, Warren, Etienne.
Pollard was going in the sixth round. I've seen a lot of boards, and I saw a lot of smart people moving Pacheco up before that Friday night game.
Pacheco belongs in that conversation.
In that last weekend. Pollard's got the backfield to himself. There's nobody else there. I mean, the other guys are IR.
Yeah.
Howard's
the one I'm least concerned about.
And even Hubbard. Yes. Hubbard has basically benefited for them getting blown out because he becomes like somebody posted a tweet. When the Panthers are getting blown out, he becomes LT.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's catching 12, which is great. It's all part of
it. All counts. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And I see that
that's
happening
the
a lot
argument.
This year.
And as much as you can say about Trevion, Hampton at one point was going early third round before the injury to the offensive lineman. He was going like 3-1, 3-3, 3-4 in early August and that stuff. And that was in prime times that I was doing. So and he's pretty much the same as Trevion.
Through 2 weeks, if you remember, last year, I mean, and again, it's only 2 weeks, but last year, what was the story of the running backs? Those mid-round, dead round, that round 5 through 8, there were so many hits. And those guys like the Aaron Joneses and the James Connors and eventually the Chase Brown, these guys actually were top 10 running backs. Okay, right now through 2 weeks, I don't see anybody in that range that's emerging, which to my point is why these elite top 2 running backs it could be the biggest significant, if you went wide receiver heavy this year, you might be really behind the 8 ball because none of these guys through 2 weeks are emerging. James Conner looks like he's taking a step back.
Trey Benson definitely deserves a lot.
Pacheco, like you said, looks like Trev. All these guys that everybody said, I'll just be wide receiver heavy and then I'll hit these big names in the middle rounds. It's 0 for 2 kind of so far. I know there's
but Chris, let's go back to the second round right now. Outside of JT, who's pretty much could be the 1-1 pick. You could say he deserves to be 1-1, top 3, whatever.
Yeah.
Outside of him, Trace Brown going forward. You're not feeling good. And he's had 37 yards rushing in like 2 games. I mean, something stupid.
Yeah.
So he hasn't looked great. What's his name? Jeanty, I still like him too. I still think he can be really good. But he hasn't, burst on the scene like maybe we thought. So
I know what you're saying, Matt. I know what you're saying here.
Second round, outside of JT, Bucky Irving, that last drive.
No, I think you're looking at it. I actually see it the other way, Matt. I think everybody is a good pick. Achane is a really good pick. Henry, we saw what he did week 1. He's a superstar stud. Yeah, the game script and it was weird, but nobody's worried about Derrick Henry.
Nobody's worried about Henry.
Okay, so Derrick Henry was a home run pick in round 2. JT was a home run pick. Achane, I think, is going to be a home run pick. Bucky Irvin looks great. Straight across the board, Matt. Round 2 running backs.
And I just gave you 2 guys right now that went right after the turn or at the turn. That will go
Jeanty. If you want to make Jeanty a second rounder, that's fine. I look at Jeanty as a first round, but whatever.
Whatever. He was fringe. Yeah. I'm just saying it's not as like slam dunk, and I'm not saying these guys aren't going to be good. I want Jeanty to smash.
I think they have a much better chance of being good than the guys we took in the middle rounds. That's for sure. And let's move into some of these RB0 guys that look like they're starting to come on. We got Bashal Tootin, Cam Skattebo, Trey Benson, Woody Marks looked pretty good last night. Where are you guys at with these players? Like if you've got let's say that you've got Travion Henderson or you've got RJ Harvey, and you're sitting there with a team with Tootin or Skattebo or Marks or Benson. Are you starting any of those guys in place of a Henderson or an RJ Harvey?
Yeah, let me just follow. I'm going to answer that, Dan, right now by just capping off the last conversation, because Matt talked about one rookie running back that I left out of that last conversation, and that was Skattebo. Skattebo, I was hoping that Tracy was going to be one of those, round 8-9 guys like with ETN and Warren, Pollard, guys like that. Skattebo is going to be the lead back, I think, in this offense, and he's going to be a 0 RB type of running back that saves your builds. Okay, so I just wanted to say that, and we can include him now in your conversation here, your topic. Skattebo is going to be one of those answers, but the main answer here for me is going to be Quinshon Judkins. That's going to be the guy, I think, going forward, that out of that whole range, the running backs from picks 100 to 130. I love Trey Benson, but until James Conner goes away, can you really start Trey Benson? I almost started him this past week.
I had to start him. I started him in the league. He got about 11 points as my RB2.
Yeah. And Matt, to the point, is this what we're hoping for in fantasy nowadays?
Well, it's not what we're hoping for.
But you got to look at how you build a team, though. If I come at you with 4 stud receivers, and I got
that are doing shit right now, through 2 weeks.
I got tight ends. Well, again, too, I do play more FFPC than NFFC, and I got 2 stud tight ends. You're not beating me if my RB2 is putting up 10 and my RB1 is doing his thing. It's we do play in different ways.
So I'm just saying, wide receivers have struggled through 2 weeks in general. As a whole, it's been absolutely true. Don't tell me the one-off about Neighbors. Yeah, I got a ton of Neighbors too. That I'm talking in general, wide receiver position has been terrible through 2 weeks. And we're looking at guys that are given 11s and 14s and 12s and not.
It was terrible last year too with a lot of these guys.
But Chris, the point is you're kind of stuck with those guys. Of
course you're stuck with them. So
you're not going to start Keyshawn Boutte over BTJ or anything like that. But what if you do have you wanted to talk about Travion Henderson, so let's talk about him. Let's talk about these guys that you might start in place of him. Who are you? Are you going to start Tootin in place of Travion Henderson?
No, I wouldn't do that. I'd still have to roll with Travion Henderson. Skattebo is in the conversation. I'm just going to give you Ramondre Stevenson. I think is startable over all these guys that are struggling. If you have the Harveys or whatever, Quinshon Judkins, Skattebo, and Javonte Williams.
Yeah,
those are the names you're looking at to get bailed out at the running back position right now. Those 4 or 5 names are the answer to if you have a struggling running back or if you needed some help and you waited at running back.
For me, I think Skattebo is pretty hard not to play if you have that's going to be an interesting debate because I'm looking at this game against the Steelers as the Steelers have just been getting gushed. Look what the Jets did to them. Look what Seattle did to them. And now the Patriots go in there. And again, I watched that Patriots-Dolphins game. That game had no business being that close. And Ramondre did look good in that game. I watched week 1. Ramondre looked like dog shit. I'm sorry. You forget about the 7 for 15. So everybody's all of a sudden, Ramondre, I'm looking at these comments, how great Ramondre is, and he's the savior. I don't believe that. But we're going to see this week. We're going to see. And Trevion, if he's on that field, needs to – he was really good in college at pass pro, and he needs to do that. That is part of the process. He's not going to stay on the field if he's going to get blown up or take holding penalty or take holding calls. So I don't think they're just going to dismiss the second-round pick. It's going to be interesting because I think right now the Steelers have a lot of injuries on defense. They've been gashed the first 2 weeks. So this is a game.
Very surprising how bad their defense has been.
It really is, but I think they do have a lot of injuries.
Yeah,
but,
Joey Porter's out, and a couple guys are banged up. But to me, they were a top 3 defense on the board for fantasy this year, and I'm thinking about dropping them or at least benching them and picking up a second defense until they get their crap together.
But I mean, Giants are playing the Chiefs.
Kansas City.
The Texans and Jaguars are facing off. I mean,
do you believe in Nick Chubb? Can you throw Nick Chubb into that mix?
I mean, maybe on volume, but he did have that 25-yard touchdown run that pretty much saved that night. I mean, it wasn't good. And Woody Marks had like 4 touches. Maybe Woody Marks as a pass catcher, I would buy because they really had no time to throw the damn ball down the field. You see this guy getting killed every play he drops back. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to think about the Texans. Like, Nico Collins is a beast.
They're a bad
and
team.
they can't get him the ball.
Bad offense, bad
offense, bad offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line's brutal.
That's the main problem that I'm seeing with him. Yeah, I agree, and that's why it's going to be tough on Chubb because he really needs a good offensive line to operate behind. He's one of those runners that if you give him a good runway, he's going to steamroll you. But if he doesn't get the runway, he's going to have.
Can I ask this question? It's a little off topic, but it's on. We're talking about observations. Like, who are you more worried about? Say, out of BTJ, Nico, or any other wide receiver that was going in that range?
Brian Thomas by a mile. I said it last week. You guys scoffed at it. I'm worried big time. Now you add in this wrist injury. The fact that they're throwing the 4 or 5 De'Ami Brown, Washington, Strange. There's all of a sudden it doesn't look like Brian Thomas is the elite. Now hear me out. The elite alpha wide receiver one that you draft as a top 10 overall pick. Okay? Nobody's taking him over Malik Neighbors right now, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, but everybody was 50-50 on that 10 days ago at the draft table. Okay? Drake London, Amon-Ra, Puka. Give me all these guys. And Drake London's got off to a bad start. He's another guy that I think might be a little banged up like a Bowers that we might have to struggle with for another couple weeks until he's fully healthy. I'd still take him over Brian Thomas, but nobody would take
I don't know if I would do that. I think I would take BTJ over London.
I don't know. I would probably.
I think that's a debate. I think that's the topic.
I think it's fair to be terrified of BTJ, and I killed Lawrence last week.
Yeah.
This week it was BTJ because there was a couple of those plays where he didn't. I won't use that word, but he didn't seem to really go after the ball. I mean, drops and.
Jacksonville wants him to be the wide receiver one, unquestioned wide receiver one, but he's spitting the bit right now.
He has gotten how many targets the first couple of weeks, but again,
he keeps dropping them. I mean, I think he'd be getting fed if he was catching those balls.
Timeout. He's dropping them this week. Week 1, he was wide open on quite a few plays, and the ball wasn't even close. It wasn't even like it was debatable. So. After 2 weeks, you got to hope that Liam Cohen gets this thing figured out and solved. And as far as the wrist issue goes, I don't know how much I'm buying it. Well, didn't he put him on special teams for a play? I mean, you really don't play guys there. I mean, it was kind of bizarre.
I would say this to wrap this up. If you're going to leave Chase where he is, I think Justin Jefferson owners have to be very concerned right now as well. To me, it would be after Chase, it would be Lamb and Neighbors in any order, and then Amon-Ra Puka.
You would have Chase 1 still going forward?
No. Honestly, I would have Lamb and Neighbors.
I agree.
Right in the discussion.
Just goes to the quarterback.
Right in the discussion, but to be fair, Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase, and the guy's going to still get peppered with him. I'm not as worried about Jamar Chase as I am at Justin Jefferson. Neighbors, Puka, Amon-Ra before all these other guys that we drafted in round 1. That's who I would have.
I do agree with that. But and again, just to reiterate these points, I know it was with Mac Jones, let's say. But you look at that second half. Like Brian Thomas was elite, and the first 2 weeks, I'm terrified. I am agreeing with you. I am nervous. I'm not saying I'm confident. But I do think this is a tremendous player. And the hope is week 3, he steps up and gets it done.
Okay, so listen, real quick. I know we got to hit the break, Dan, but my guy Paul Spiteri had a little inside information with that Jacksonville team, and it stuck in my head come late August. Okay, Brian Thomas and Trevor Lawrence don't have a real good rapport with each other, relationship-wise, off the field. So to me, that stuck out, and I think we're seeing that now. Okay, I think that could be coming to fruition here, where you need that chemistry.
No, that makes sense. That's a good point. I just think
that's the rumors. That was the rumors swirling, and I think it might be right. They're not vibing. They're not vibing, and all that damage was with Mac Jones.
Yes, there definitely was, and I'm just saying this he's pretty much being called out by the fan base and everything. So to me, this is if it's not a BTJ game this week where he just dominates, then I'm going to be really concerned going forward. And I still have concern. I don't know.
Think about last year's offense, right? Yeah, you had Ingram there, okay, but BTJ was the clear alpha one. Every every look was to him. You don't get that on many teams, right? As the alpha one, okay. That's why a Justin Jefferson is a stud like he is. A Neighbors is the stud he is. I just think that after 2 weeks, the dynamic in this offense is completely different. Okay, you bring in a Travis Hunter. I mentioned all these other guys. They're getting targets, left and right. You go from a target tree of maybe 2 guys with a possible third. Now, all of a sudden, there's 5 or 6 guys in Jacksonville, and it's getting spread around. How can you be that 15 to 18 target alpha wide receiver one that a lot of these other guys that we invest in those early rounds? And I still think, a guy like Ladd McConkey is in trouble now. The same exact reason. We drafted Ladd McConkey.
I would maybe buy Ladd. I'm a little different. I know everybody's saying jump ship. I would maybe buy Ladd.
No. I'm not saying. Listen, I think Ladd McConkey will be fine. I think Ladd McConkey's great in terms of the player. But last year is a different story than this year. Ladd McConkey last year was the only show in town. Now you bring in Keenan Allen. And Quint and QJ, he's he looks like he's emerging now through 2 weeks. Catches another 60-yarder last night. It's more spread out. You got.
I do believe people forget that QJ didn't he finish the end of the year with a bunch of touchdowns too? Everybody seems to forget that about him. But just real quick, here's how things change. I'm watching that Raiders game. I didn't watch the whole game. But I'm watching all these targets to Trey Tucker. And I'm like, what the hell? Why is this guy getting 7 targets? This should not be happening. And, you need to get the alphas. Neighbors, he demands the ball. When he didn't get the targets that first game, whatever, last year, or the second game, whatever week it was, and then, boom, he got 19. To me, this is where that has to go. And this is the observation that I'm looking for.
Is this a Brock Bowers point? You're saying?
No, this is I'm sorry, Brian Thomas. Diami Brown. Yes, but I'm trying to get to my point. Diami Brown and the other guys can't be getting 7 targets and him not getting that, or tight end. So
but they are.
But I'm saying I'm trying to make the point Trey Tucker shouldn't get 7 targets. Diami Brown shouldn't get 7. We're going to see this week. This is the observation that I'm going to be dialed in on. I'm going to watch this Jaguars game, and I'm going to be saying, is Brian Thomas the guy? Are they making that commitment like they made to Neighbors? Neighbors is getting the ball.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to see.
Well, that's what separates why I'm saying how we would redo it is you got Neighbors would be in a class of his own.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
A guy like Drake London, even though it hasn't happened through 2 weeks, Drake London, you have a narrow target tree there.
Do they? I asked that question last week.
Kyle Pitts and Mooney. Yeah, because guess what?
Kyle Pitts, Mooney, and you got Bijan. It's not a narrow.
Well, everybody has a running back.
But I think he's more involved. He gets, he's getting a lot.
You can say the same thing with Brian Thomas with ETN and Tootin out of the backfield. Forget Bijan.
Mooney last year was heavily involved. Sure. And the last couple of games where what's his name went off, Mooney missed one game, he went out early. Mooney, I don't think he's going away. And if Pitts is going to be more involved, if he's running 100% of the routes and getting at least 8 targets a week, I think that hurts London. I like London. I have some London. I'm not trying to say he's a bad player, but these are the things I'm observing. He had a smash week where he got what? How many targets did he get? And he got 55 yards. So to me, that was not ideal. I agree. Maybe he's banged up with the shoulder. I'm not going to take that away from him. But if I'm going to see there's going to be three guys, like you're saying, if Kyle Pitts is returning,
that would hurt Drake London. Yeah, that would hurt London is if Pitts is actually taking this next step. I loved Drake London this year because I thought Mooney would miss some significant time early in the year, at least the first 4 to 6 weeks. I thought then he miraculously came back the last week of practice, and now he's involved in the offense. He was out there a ton. So now you got three guys out there. I still think there's room for Drake London to be, a double-digit target guy each week.
I'm not
so I would
arguing
still have
that.
him over Brian Thomas.
But last year, what was it?
No,
London had
hear you.
1,200 yards, and Mooney had basically 1,000. And the guy missed basically 2 games. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's that's all. I'm not talking negative about it. I'm looking at observations that I'm keying on.
Let's take it over to the Rams, though, Matt. Like to me, that offense is you got 2 elite studs with Puka and Devon. That's it. They're getting all the targets.
Yes.
So
but
I was off of Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams might be that wide receiver that should have been going in the middle of the 3rd round with all these other guys.
Here's why I'll agree, because they basically force-fed him.
Those are the offense you want.
And there weren't plays where he was wide open. They were basically, it was kind of weird that they were just getting him the ball no matter what. It seemed like on a few instances in that game. But I agree. If that's going to be the tree,
That's why I think Puka, and I have no Puka this year. I
don't either.
But that's going to be one of those players that, we all have these
handful
of players that we overlook, that we're not in on, that could really burn us. And I think the number one player on my list of guys that I faded, that I don't have any shares of, that could really hurt me this year is Puka.
Okay, I mean, that's fair enough. I think,
Yeah.
I think we hit a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. Anything else you want to touch on before we bounce and get out of here? I know Dan had some technical issues. We're about a minute.
Just keep making the observations. Watch as much. If you got the NFL Plus, which you should, try and watch these condensed games, all 22 if you get a chance. Because I do think it's helpful. I'm not saying you're going to become a scout and be calling plays, but you do get to see some stuff that maybe you wouldn't.
Yeah, we always preach it. You got to watch the games just to see the things that are going on. And the box score doesn't always tell the story. So that's that. With 2 weeks in the books, fantasy football right now is pretty crazy. It always is. It's always a little. Hey, Dan made it back at the end of the show. It's always a little crazy through the first 2 weeks. Probably not done with that either. Probably another wacky week or two before things start to settle in, and you can really make your solid opinions of what's going to happen throughout. But it's a bumpy ride. It always is.
Wednesday night's going to be wild with the quarterback bids.
Anybody stand out to you player-wise at running back or wide receiver that is somebody that's a must-add? And obviously our
for me, if any Malik Washington is out there, I tried getting as much as I could. And I pretty much got all the Troy Franklin that first Wednesday and Saturday night. But I saw him drop more in my gorillas than anything, because I pretty much have him in all NFFC except for a couple of leagues. And I didn't even draft that guy really till the very end. And I think we didn't talk about him, but I think he is an emerging force. They have the college connection. He's got the speed. He's got he made that leap in camp.
So what does that do for Mims and Ingram?
Where the hell is Ingram? I thought Ingram was going to be a smash. He's like Mandrews, disappearing out there. So, but I do believe in Troy Franklin. I was late to the party, but I tried getting everything I could. And just check your waivers, because if he's out there, he is a must-add in my opinion.
Dan, anybody else?
Yeah, I think probably Malik Washington, but you're not going to find him in NFFC. You can find him a little bit in FFPC. It's hard to come up with too many other people. I mean, I didn't think that there were anybody that really stood out that wasn't already standing out in week one.
Actually, I got one guy for NFFC, and it's
Okay.
kind of a stretch. I got one guy for NFFC, and he was put on the hands team, which was like remarkable. Dontavian Wicks.
Wicks, yes.
I was just
That's
going to say,
the-
what about the Green Bay situation in wide receivers in the wide receiver room? Hand up. I was a big Matthew Golden guy going into this year. He's
looking good now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but through 2 weeks, it's been a disappointment.
But that last game, how many opportunities did he have?
Yeah.
It just missed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think there's better days ahead, especially now that Reed is gone. So I'm hoping that he's going to be one of these players that, you look up in October and he's a useful piece on your fantasy team. I don't know if I could play him right now, but either Dobbs or Wicks is going to be a valuable piece, I think. Dobbs isn't available, but Wicks is on the waiver wire. So I think he'll be a pretty popular ad.
Yeah, and to that point, I think just the lack of options available at running back, wide receiver, and tight end is going to throw even more focus onto those quarterbacks. Unfortunately, if anybody is really in dire need of a quarterback, your best move was probably to have gotten one last week, because I think this week everybody's going to be looking at that position first and foremost.
the only running back, which I don't think he's available this week, he was available in a couple of spots last week, and he hasn't done anything yet. But you look at the Kansas City running back situation, it's pretty terrible. At some point, they got to get Rashad Smith involved, at least pass catching the ball. They need some speed. They need some excitement. Somebody that could.
It's
give them
crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I went through. He's not available in one of my zillion leagues.
I got him last week.
That's how.
Too.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's how deep these NFFC leagues are. You go to the running back waiver wire, and there's not even a guy you could bid on that could potentially have hope. Like that's how barren it is. You're just rolling with the 6 or 7 running backs you have rostered and hoping things emerge in your running back room, because you can't go to the waiver wire and get really any help.
I'll say this. Probably now one of the most valuable backups, and I got outbid on him. I think I bid $99 for him last week, and I got outbid like $129 to $99. Is DJ Giddens? Because if something happened to JT,
we don't speak about that here. Listen, unless you really want me on the couch the rest of the season,
man.
I've taken enough with Burrow. I'm not. Don't.
I'm not.
That's the devil, Bobby.
I lost four.
Yeah, that's the
four
devil,
Burrows.
Bobby. Yeah. No more. I've taken enough. Don't even talk about that, Matt. All right.
Here's a couple for you. For the anti-Travion people, take a dollar Gibson. For the Denver people, take a dollar Tyler Beatty, because if somebody gets hurt in one of those backfields, they're going to be next man up. And right now, they're going for nothing.
Yeah.
But you'd have to be desperate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big
A dollar and a dream.
I'm a big Dobbins fan. I was last year. I still like him this year in that situation. But the guy's just never stayed healthy for a season. And we even saw it last year. Like, he just seemed to slow down as the season went along. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's
honestly,
crazy to throw a dollar.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if Dobbins went down, it would probably be Jaleel McLaughlin over Beatty. But I could be wrong on that.
Oh, good job.
All right.
Another one in the books, guys.
Yep. All right. Good job, everybody. And thanks, as always, to our audience for joining us this week. We love the feedback. The chat was definitely lit this week. We really enjoy that. So feel free to keep firing away in that every single week. And if you got any ideas for any topics or things like that, always throw them into the chat. Throw them to us. We do appreciate that. Mostly we're going to be talking about the week that was and how we're reacting to it and everything else. So there's a pretty good chance we'll be covering whatever you need covered. But that's going to be the idea every single week. And good luck this week on a successful waiver run. for all of you who have some needs and a big week for your players. And we're going to get you guys out of here.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.